I don't know. I still got probably one I gotta get rid of.
That's not bad. Okay, folks, it's 10 o'clock. Just a reminder, the meeting is on electronically transferred, so people can look from home or their office or wherever. And so due to that, if you have something to say, please come up to the microphone so everybody can hear. That'll be appreciated. With that, we'll call the meeting to order and we'll rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are at public forum time, if anybody wishes to speak. I notice everybody's jumping up. Nobody? All right. We'll move on to the agenda. Any additions, corrections?
Mr. Chair, there are no additions or corrections.
Perfect.
Ludwig move.
I'll second.
Motion by Ludwig, second by Lovegren. Any discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to the minutes of the board, reports and correspondence, the Pine County, or wait, we'll first approve the minutes of the October 17th, 2023 county board meeting and summary for publication.
I'll move that.
I'll second them.
Motion by Moore, second by Lovegren. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we'll do the minutes and reports, the Pine County Surveyor's Monthly Report for October and the Pine County Zoning Board minutes for September 28th, 2023.
I'll move.
Second.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Moore. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Move on to the consent agenda. You've had that in front of you for several days.
I'll move the
Questions on that?
I'll move the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Lovegren, seconded by Moore. Move the consent agenda. Any questions? Discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move on to regular agenda. Off sale liquor license public hearing. C&G LLC. Over C store.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. So we received an application for a new off-sale liquor license, and the statute regarding that states that the county board must hold a public hearing before approving such license. The applicant is actually a brand new business in Pine County. The owners of the business are folks who have owned businesses in Pine County though, and own several businesses. And so it is located right on the corner of Cloverdale Road and 48 out in Cloverdale. Kind of kitty corner from the tavern there. The township has reviewed it and given their approval. Any questions? Or questions for the applicant as well? They're here if you have any.
None.
Sounds great.
Does a business owner wish to say anything? No?
Nope.
Free advertising.
Any questions from the county board? Get the right page here. We'll open the public part of the public hearing. If there's anybody here that wishes to speak, because it is a public hearing, you have the right to do so.
there anybody online?
I hear nobody, so we will close the public part of the public hearing. Turn it back to the county board for one last chance. Or say anything? Otherwise, we'll consider the approval of the off-sale liquor license.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the off-site and Sunday liquor license for CNG.
I'll second.
Motion by Lovegren, second by Ludwig. Any discussion?
Good luck.
Too bad you probably weren't open this weekend, huh? No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, go forth and do great things. Thank you. Welcome. Now we have the fun part of the meeting. We've got a retirement recognition. Sherry? You want to?
You have to give a speech.
She gives this. I don't know. Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Barb Schmidt. I'm Social Services Supervisor. And this is Sherry Flesland. And I have the pleasure today. Is this the appropriate, should I stand right here? And
You're doing great,
Okay.
right there.
I have the pleasure to thank Sherry for her amazingly 35 years of service. And excuse me, I have a few notes so I don't go off course here. I've been known to go off course. So Sherry began work here in Pine County in 1988. And if I can take you back just a few minutes, in 1988, a gallon of gas was 91 cents.
We thought it was
So a Ford Taurus was $9,996. But a Logitech mouse or a mouse would have cost you $89.99, okay? But currently we're buying gas at $3.78 a gallon. And Sherry, you outlasted the Ford Taurus.
I did.
Yes. Because after 34 years, they retired it. But the good news, if you're not, there's good news, right? You can go on Amazon and buy a Logitech mouse, wireless even, for $13.99. Okay, no problem, right? So saying all that, Sherry has been a fixture here at Pine County for a while, right? I remember the first time that I met Sherry, I was very impressed and continue to be impressed by Sherry's dedication, her knowledge, and just her passion for helping others. Every office has a go-to person, and Sherry has been our go-to person for the last 35 years. And she has done everything from case management for intellectuals with disability, child protection case or intake, and mental health case management. And for that, we thank you. We know that Sherry is looking forward to retirement because when we ask her what her plans are, she reports she has no plans and she is planning on keeping it that way. So I and all of Pine County want to wish you, Sherry, a great retirement. And we want to thank you for the last 35 years and everything you've done for Pine County and its residents. So thank you. Thank you.
I think there's something going on here. Do I come up here?
Yeah, you can come, I can come around here. too.
Okay, all right.
Jerry, we're, you know, we got the gold clock here that you can turn in for a lot of. But really, you hang this on the wall and we do thank you. 35 years is commendable. And you had a tough job and we never heard any whining coming down.
Okay, he just didn't hear it.
But thank you. You were a good neighbor and
Yes.
and a great worker. We're happy for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I think they want a picture.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, and thank you. Thank you, fantastic.
In case you don't know, Sherry lived right behind us for a while and then we moved. But we didn't move far.
Neighborhood.
We're from the neighborhood. We only moved a couple. Yeah.
Thank you, Sherry.
So now we got another good thing coming here. We got a report from Central Minnesota Jobs and Training. We got Barb Chafee, who's gonna lead us off, and I think she has some people with her, but anyway. Welcome, Barb.
Let's set up all my stuff here. I'm gonna have you grab that. All right. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board and guests. My name is Barbara Chafee. I'm the CEO for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, serving 11 counties, including Pine County. My staff and I are honored to present to you today and answer any questions that you may have during our presentation. Well, year 2023 actually marks our 39th year together as partners in workforce development, supporting members of Pine County looking for work and local employers in need of qualified workers. And next year we celebrate our 40th. So we're going to have a big party and we're going to invite all of you. So you'll have to drive all the way our way. So anyway, CMJTS serves youth, adults, dislocated workers, public assistant clients, veterans, diverse populations, local businesses, and much, much more. Today, you will hear a client success story from Pine County and the impact and success of our great partnership and the services that we provide. I'm gonna go ahead and switch. Our agenda today is really fold. The first thing is that it is my job under federal law and state statute to bring you our annual fiscal audit because you have fiduciary responsibilities. And Commissioner Lovgren is on our board, so I'll talk a little bit about her in just a minute, but we want to be able to protect her. So we do have, we make sure that you understand the annual fiscal audits, which we'll be doing in next month together. So, and then on the right-hand side of your packet, black packet folder, is the annual program performance report. And it's a trifold, and you can use that and read that at your reading pleasure. Also, on the right-hand side is county demographics, and I'm going to pull that out just to make sure that you know what it looks like. It looks like this, and it is it's for the last 40 years you've asked me to bring this. And the reason is because you can pull this out, take it to your other meetings, and you have all the data for Pine County on this. And one of the things we learned in Washington, D.C. last year was that data is the most important thing that we can carry with us because it helps us make good decisions. So this is the reason that we bring this out to you for your support. The next thing is that we're going to take a look at the commercial insurances, which I always bring out to you as well. Well, something historical happened. Some historical event happened this last year in 2023. 8 of the 11 county commissioners changed positions. So guess there was only 3 left. And with all luck, it was the 3 officers. So we still have Officer Chair, Chisago County Commissioner Rick Green. And most of you probably know Rick. He's been with us for 16 years. Vice Chair, Sherburne County Commissioner Lisa Phoebe, who's been with us for 6. And Secretary Isanti County Commissioner Mike Waring, who many of you know has been with me for 12 years. But if you take a look at Kanabec County, Sandy High County, McLeod County, Meeker County, Mille Lacs, Pine County, Renville, and Wright counties, they're all brand new. You can take a look at that little number there. This is their first year. So this, I want to just pause for just one moment, turn my paper over, because I would like to thank the Pine County Board for appointing several outstanding county commissioners to the Joint Powers Board over the past 20 years. I've been here for about 24 years, but I went back to 20. This includes Commissioner Doug Carlson. I fondly I call him Dougie because he allowed me to do that. And most of you know him by Dougie too. He made me laugh at every meeting. I mean, every meeting, including when I would come up and present, he'd always come up with something, if you remember, he'd always come up with some crazy thing that he had to ask me in front of everybody. So, but then he had cancer. And even when he was ill, he was in the hospital, he signed himself out, which Becky probably already knows, and he drove all the way to the meeting. And he walked in and he still had his hospital band on his arm because he had to go back. He just signed himself out for the day. That was Dougie for sure. But it was really unique because as soon as he walked in the door, he'd say, "Okay, I'm ready, let's go." And I think the reason that he actually came, he didn't want to miss the chicken that we had. We always had chicken and mashed potatoes, and he couldn't stay away from the chicken. So that's why he said he had to be there on time.
Mhm.
The next is Commissioner Steve Holland. And Commissioner, you were the alternate for Dougie for a while, but then you took over when he passed. And you did an amazing job. And I know that you left this year, but who did you assign? You assigned Commissioner Terry Lovegren, who started actually in March. So this is her very first year. But in her first year, Commissioner Lovegren has demonstrated her leadership and commitment to the Joint Powers Board and to the Workforce Development Board. She not only attended the Joint Powers Board quarterly trainings, she also attended the Workforce Development Board trainings, which happen every month. So she's been very busy. Furthermore, Commissioner Lovegren attended the August Minnesota Association of Workforce Boards Summer Conference in Duluth, a special training for Joint Powers Board and Workforce Development Board members, and also for the directors, CEOs like myself. Commissioner Lovegren, attending all these important trainings demonstrates your commitment to excellence. I personally want to thank you because I don't remember any other brand new commissioner ever even coming up and doing those extra trainings. So thank you. You done an amazing job, and thank you for your support. I also want to thank this county for sending us a special thanks for sending us Becky Laurie. Becky, where are you? Because she's been on our Workforce Development Board for a long time, but she comes from here. She's probably the only person on a board that shows up at these meetings. And I want to thank you personally because you are absolutely amazing. And if anybody can keep me laughing, Becky can too. So yes, you sure can, but you got to come up here.
Doug Carlson nominated me to serve on the board.
Oh,
He said,
yes, he did.
she's my nemesis, but I love her.
And at the very
We
end,
say so hospital together. You guys know that.
Yeah.
well, when we get to the end, I'm going to have Becky come and tell you about the gun. So please remember the gun that you did. Oh, I'll tell you about it in just a second because we can't go without. I know. The one, I will whisper in your ear, but it's hilarious. I couldn't go and leave today without that one. So, all right. So next, so congrats for being on our team. Well, when you have all those brand new members, you got to do some training. So I put together some things. Of course, Commissioner, you don't know, but this was the easy training. Wait till I get to the hard stuff. But one of the things that we looked at was the local duties of under the Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act. And if you go into my office, you're going to see that the law is about this thick. But if you look at the NPRM, the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, it's about this thick. So I didn't want to overwhelm them with all that. So I tried to keep, on the stuff that they needed to know right away. We also talked about the roles of the chief elected officials. We're going to be learning more about the Joint Powers Board Agreement, which will be in March. And then we also talked about the composition of the boards. So one county commissioner is appointed by each of the 11 counties. And they can have an alternate, which I talked to you about just a second ago with Steve. But they're the only board, because they have the power, they're the only board that can have an alternate. All the other boards are placed on there. Those individuals are placed on there by the Joint Powers Board. And they're the only one that can take them off, put them on the board, and they're the only one that can take them off. That's how much power they have. The Joint Powers Board meets March, June, September, and December on a quarterly basis. But if you become a chair, vice chair, or secretary, then you automatically are an officer on their Workforce Development Board, which means you have to go to the quarterly meetings and just what you've been doing, Commissioner. And then you also are on the board, which meets on a monthly basis, except for August, which we go up north. And then one of the things I thought I better do was put in some fun. So I did put in some history of the workforce development. And I think that Commissioner Lovgren will tell you that that's the part she liked the best, because I put some pretty hilarious, it was pretty funny, some of the stuff. What I didn't do was give you the most funny one today, because I didn't want to get off chart. So anyway, the other thing is that my staff would absolutely welcome the opportunity to attend a county commissioner's scheduled work group. So if you ever have a work group, we have wonderful, wonderful partners here in public assistance. We would love to get together with them and talk and show you all of our programs and services, because we have like 90 some grants, and you really need to know what we do so that we can do a better job here right in Pine County. Well, here's the question. One of the questions that I would ask in this meeting: what workplace development program was established in 1933 and still exists today? And we have one person on our board who actually knew this, because she happens to be a Wagner-Peiser in Wagner-Peiser Job Service. Job Service in Wagner-Peiser, the same thing in Minnesota. And it was in 1933, it was Franklin D. Roosevelt that actually put that into place. So that's the fun one too. So I put that one on. If you look at the left, you're going to see our map. I want to just, for those of you that don't exactly know, I'm the director over the 11 county area. It's kind of it's a greenish gray, and it's wraps around the blue area, which is the metro area. So, and you can see where it says LWDA5, we're Local Workforce Development Area 5. And we're also Region 3, and because the federal government decided that we should also have a region. So we are married with Stearns and Benton. So that's why we have 13 counties, and we have an extra board because of that. If you look on the right-hand side, you're going to see all of our areas, and most of our areas are up here and up north. We have Cambridge, we have Hutchinson, which is in Ridgewater College. We have Monticello, which is our comprehensive center. It's our corporate office. That's where I drove up from today. And then the Career Force affiliate centers are Litchfield, Malacca, Mora, North Branch, which I just ran through, Pine City, Wilmer, which is also in the college, and then a couple of specialized centers, Olivia and Sandstone. This is the annual report on your right-hand side. Some of you have already started looking at it. These are my executive team, some corporate team members, and Christina will be talking to you in just a moment, and so will Diana. And then the annual fiscal audit, here to let you know what that looks like. In December of each year, The Joint Powers Board reviews the annual fiscal audit with fiscal auditors Clifton Larson and Allen, which are the top 5 in the nation. And so they really dig deep. So when we get a clean audit, we know it's clean. So what do they review? They select the federal and state funded programs this year. The year that you're going to see are federal. Next year, you're going to see some state public assistance programs. They designate case, they look at our designated case files. They look at our internal controls manual, which is really stellar. And in anytime we have something new, we make sure that it's in there. On the cost categories, the budgets, et cetera. And then they evaluate all fiscal processes, including our vendors. So if our vendor list is outdated, we can get some questions on that, which we don't want to do. And that's a lot of work. So what I'm going to do is on your left-hand side of your packet, you're going to see the annual fiscal audit. Because I can't read that from here, I'm doing my cheat, and I'm going to bring out this sheet so that I can actually go through it with you, because this is important for you to know. If you look on the left-hand side and it looks like this, it should be on the left-hand side of your packet. So it's big, so you could pull it out, So on your left-hand side of your packet, you're going to kind of see it in the back of this and in the back of that. So it'll be right there. So to the left, it'll say on top, it'll say section 1 summary of auditor's results. On the left-hand side, it'll say financial statements. So the first thing is that what type of audit is it? It's an unmodified, and an unmodified report means that the auditor expresses that the financial statements are represented fairly and in all respects. So the internal controls, there was no material weaknesses identified. There was no significant deficiencies identified. And you want to have no's on the right-hand side over here. No compliance materials to the final statements were noted. And then you go down, it says federal awards. The internal controls over major programs, and it says there's no material weaknesses were identified. No significant deficiencies were identified. And again, what type of report was this? It was unmodified. And any audit findings, were there any audit findings disclosed that are required to be reported in accordance with 2 CFR 200.516? And the answer is no. Then you get down a little bit further. It says identification of the major programs. The name of the federal programs or cluster was the WIOA cluster, which is Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act cluster. Whenever you hear WIOA, it is federal. So that's what we did. And then you have to, if you're over 750,000, and we're anywhere sometimes between 8 million and, when there's a recession, we're up to 15 million. We have to have this audit and bring it to you. So did CMJTS qualify as a low risk auditee? This is the only place you want a yes, and it is yes. Yay. So that is 15 years of clean audits. We're hoping that we'll have another one this year. So exciting times, but thank goodness. It's not easy to, when you're a nonprofit, to have clean audits. The commercial insurances, and that is also behind on the left-hand side if you pull it out, because I can't read the little tiny print. So I always make it a little bit bigger for you as well. If you go down 1, 2, 3, 4 blue lines, or go up 4 blue lines, you're going to see something that says policy type management liability. Our insurance carriers are a Carolina Casualty Insurance comp coverages. And if you look here, it says directors and officers liability. It is $2 million. This is what protects Commissioner Lovegren. This is what protected Commissioner Hallen. This is important because if you go to any nonprofit, you should be asking for at least your schedule of insurances. And this is all of our schedule of insurances. So I'm not going to go over them all. You can see that we're covered with everything that the county needs. You go down to the bottom, and this is the one that you asked us to up to $2 million. This is the policy type is the cyber, and that's cybersecurity. It was timely when you ask us to update that to 2 million. And I think maybe in the next coming years, we're probably gonna be asked to up it again. Because every one of us that works in, in this, like the commissioners and even going online and everything else, we get hacked on a daily basis. So it's getting worse and it's not going to get better. So at some point in time, I'm sure that we're going to have to up this, but this is the highest that we can go at this point. All right. That helps a little bit. This is just the org chart. It's in there. Basically, it tells you about all of the boards that we have. We have the Joint Powers Board to the left. And then we have the Region 3 Leadership and Planning Board, because remember I told you we're married with Stearns Benton, so we have a special board for that. Then myself is in the middle yellow, and then the regular Workforce Development Board is to the right in their committees. One committee that's missing here that I will make sure that it gets changed is that we have a CGR committee, which is Community and Government Relations. I know that. Yeah, I have to stop and think about that one. Community and Government Relations Committee. So, and then of course we have our corporate team, we have our program team, and we have our business team. We're one of the few, one of two in the state of Minnesota that has a business team. I put that together probably in my 3rd or 4th year as CEO because I saw the importance of it. If we're supposed to go out and we're supposed to meet with all these businesses, we have to have staff to do that. Deed had staff for a while, but it was kind of intermittent and they liked working with my team. So I made sure that we stayed and we kept that business team going. So now I'm so honored because I get to pass this off on my wonderful staff. They're outstanding. I couldn't say anything better about them, except that you can turn that click right there. And then I'll sit next to
Well, good morning. I'm Diana Ristamaki, the Youth Program Manager with CMJTS, and I also kind of oversee some of those north offices. So I get the privilege today to introduce our staff, Kimberly, who works out of the Sandstone office, and she is going to talk to you about our success story. But also just want to say thank you to Commissioner Loveland. She came out to our Operation Exploration camps this summer and spent half a day with our youth there. And that has been one of the first board members that have attended some of our youth events. So the kids absolutely loved it. And so just personally want to thank you for that again. All right, Kimberly, you're up.
Thank you for letting me. That was a fun day.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Nordberg, and I'm an employment specialist here with CMJTS in Pine County, and I am located out of Sandstone. And I am really happy to present a success story for a client that I've been working with for about 2 years. Her name is Megan, and she was not able to be here today because of scheduling conflict. So I am more than happy to present on her behalf and share her story with all of you. So Megan came to me a couple of years ago, and she's a single mom with 2 young children, and pictures up there, they really like to travel. So she sent me some of those pictures, which is really good to see. She came to me and said, I'm not just looking for a job, just employment, but I'm really looking for a career. Being a single mom, she said, I want to be more independent. And I want to be able to financially support my kids. So she said, I have some ideas. I've had some experience working in healthcare. And she said, I'd like to kind of explore that and see where that can kind of take me. So at that time, she did enroll down in the cities at Anoka Ramsey Community College. And at there, she received her home health aide and CNA license. She found a job really quickly and very close to home. She no longer had to travel down to the cities, which she was doing several days a week from Sandstone down to Anoka. She found a job and she worked there for quite some time. She came back to me and said, I'm kind of looking for something a little bit more in the healthcare field. She goes, I absolutely love my job. I love what I do. That's the career I want. So then she said, my next idea is I want to enroll in Pine Tech, which she did. And she enrolled in the RN program, which she is currently attending. And that's why she can't be here today, unfortunately. But she is set to and is on track to graduate in the fall of 2024, which she technically only has 2 semesters left. So she can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and she is very much looking forward to a career in the nursing field. She said one of her bigger challenges is at this point, is just trying to narrow it down. Like, where does she want to work in the field? Because the possibilities are endless for her. Along the way, Megan has been very, very motivated, very positive. She always kind of has a plan and what she wants to do and was able to discuss it with me. She came to me looking just for some guidance, some support to alleviate some of the barriers that she had coming into the program. Some of those barriers were, how do I afford this? How do I get down to college? How do I pay for things that I need for college? So we have support funds that we use to help clients in those situations. And so we were able to provide her with a laptop. She was traveling back and forth down to Pine City from Sandstone numerous times a week just to use the computers down there. And she has 2 young children, so at times she just could not go down there. Or other times it was weather, because we have that great weather here in Minnesota, which prevented her from going down some days. And so we were able to give her a laptop so she could work from home as much as possible or when she needed to. We also provided her with some work items such as scrubs for work as well. And then also paid for some car insurance. And those just kind of alleviated some of those barriers that she had coming into the program, and for her not to have to worry about those stressors or added stressors. So we are very happy to be able to provide her with those support funds. Megan's future plans, she would like to travel more. I know she told me that. She sent me some pictures. Her kids and her like to do hiking and like to go that I can't remember where she's at, but she said they do a lot of hiking, a lot of camping, a lot of fishing. She said her ultimate goal is to become an RN, determine which field she wants to get into with that. And then ultimately buy a house for her and her kids so they have a place that they call home. Right now they are renting and with family members. So she said she just wants to gain that independence and move on and be able to do that for herself. For me, I've been so happy to see her accomplishments. She has done so well in the progress that she has made and just her continued determination just to keep moving forward. And reaching out to me when she needs some guidance. It might just be verbally just kind of talking to her, because from what I understand, the nursing program is it's very difficult, it's very demanding. And so whatever I can do to assist her and alleviate some of that, just talking her through some of it sometimes is important to her, she said. It's been just very rewarding to see her continue to pursue these goals, and she has goals beyond just the nursing degree too. I'm just very proud of her and excited to see what she has in store for the future and ultimately what she picks for the healthcare field. So it's been wonderful, and I do thank you for allowing me to share the success story with you, and just it's great to see her progress. She's done wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it for us, unless you guys have any questions for any of us. I don't know how to work this.
How many students did you have in the summer?
Well, we had 6 camps across our 11 counties, and so the Pine County one that we held, we had 12. We
Okay.
hold a max of 15 just so that it's those smaller groups of youth, so they can have more one-on-one with the trades. And we had 12 that came.
Good.
It was pretty awesome.
So ours was the trades. What were the other ones? Where else did they go?
We had trades in our Wright County area. So we, Wright Tech will hold 2 of our camps right on their site with us. So we had a trades one and a healthcare one there. And then we had trades and healthcare in our southern areas. So Ridgewater College is another huge partner of ours, and they host all of our camps in that area. And then a lot of their instructors help with some of that hands-on along with the business partners. So it will be doing those camps again this year. At pretty much the same locations, and then also looking for an area for a healthcare one in our northern area somewhere. So we're expanding. It's definitely expanding quite a bit.
Good program.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. We'll get it out of her sooner or later.
I'm looking at the clock and it still says it's only 10 to 10. Thank you for
Thanks
coming
for
out.
being here.
Maybe I will tell you one story.
Oh.
I'll tell you this story because I love this story. So I, like I said, Doug Carlson nominated me to serve on the board, and my title was business owner, but I was a former legislator, and I went to the first meetings, and on Legislators Day, I saw all the legislators just campaigning, you know? And I remembered that when I was in office, I didn't really know what the workforce development boards did, because we came to the meetings and campaigned, you know, I mean, we're like that. I'm sorry. But so then after a couple meetings, I said, you guys, I just think, you know, when I was in office, I didn't really know what you did. I don't think we should listen to them anymore. I think that what we need to do is present the successful programs so they see the value that we have in our community. And we've been doing that ever since. Okay, that's it. That's been a gun story.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thanks for being here. Minnesota Social Services Association, Patrick.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. I brought a few of my staff with today that we'll just identify some of the success stories that we've had and some of the things we've been working on over the last year. So the first slide here, just the introduction, but we just heard about the region that CMGTS is part of. For DHS, we are part of Region 7. Sometimes 7E is brought up. That's the Pickham counties. Plus, then we have Stearns, Benton, Sherburne, and Wright as the 7W side. So, there we go. Look, Ryan, I can do it. Here we go. What we're going to go through today, I just want to talk a little bit about what is MSSA. We held an annual regional conference in September. Really want to highlight the award winners from that conference, and then talk a little bit about Pine County representation with MSSA and what we've been doing in partnership with them. So first with what is MSSA? My apologies, Ryan. So the social service, the Minnesota Social Services Association is a membership-based group, has over 4,000 HHS professionals, 165 agencies. It's not just counties. There is governed by a board of directors. Like I said, there's regional chapters. We're part of Region 7. Regional conferences, which we hosted and we'll talk about on the next slide. And then, of course, they do some of that legislative work, lobby and advocacy on behalf of the various members and agencies that they represent. So back in September, we, as in Pine County, and specifically really Samantha and Miranda, who are on the regional board for MSSA, took the lead and hosted our annual regional conference up at Osprey Wilds, which, as you can imagine, in September, it was beautiful. And there's lots of people walking the grounds up there. We had nearly 80 attendees, 3 speakers that came and talked and did some training. And of course, what is great for my staff with social workers and nurses having those 5 CEUs available. I know we had representation also from Phase, from the shelter here in town, and of course, other counties and other organizations around our area. And then at during lunch, we had the annual awards. So something we are very proud of. Again, I talked about the large region that we are part of. All 4 of the award winners were nominated by Pine County staff. And they all touch Pine County residents on a daily basis. And you can see up there, we had the Outstanding Adult Foster Care Award to Matt and Dana. One of my former staff was very proud of this. Betty Kozlowski was the Outstanding Retiree. We had Outstanding Child Foster Care with the Fredericks. And then Heather Wright, who is the owner of North Star Community Services, was the Outstanding Community Collaborator or Community Collaboration Award. And they, although they are headquartered up in Cloquet, they have an office right around the corner from Maxwell's. They're facing the garage. So they have a satellite office here in Pine County. They operate 3 foster homes and do some other in-home services. So, again, we're talking, there's nominees from all over the area, St. Cloud, we think Wright County, and the possibilities, and just how proud, of my staff, of the other staff that made nominations, took their time out of the day to highlight the good work that's going on here in the county. Should be something that we're all proud of. The Pine County involvement, I already brought up a little bit. So again, Samantha Mazer and Miranda Auger, if you guys want to say hi. They are members of the Region Board of Directors. Andrea Anderson was formerly on the Region Board of Directors, but now she's on the State Board of Directors for MSSA and represents Pine County very well there. And I would say one of the needed aspects is bringing that rural perspective. I'm sure you guys have seen sometimes those boards and groups can get front loaded by the metro. So it's really nice to have a strong voice, someone who's been doing this work for a long time to represent Pine County and the rural areas down there in our interests. So last year, even though it says the 23 legislative cycle, about a year ago, Samantha, Andrea, and I put together a policy proposal for MSSA that was ended up being titled, those fun titles they get at the legislature, Invest in Rural Transportation Options to Support Client Care. But really at the heart of the matter is our individuals that need non-emergency medical transportation. Think of our seniors, think of individuals with disabilities that don't have family that need to get to the doctor, need to get to dialysis, need to get their prescriptions. The rates that Medicaid is paying are not, the providers are not taking them. And we knew that because of the individuals that are on Medicaid, but they are getting their insurance through a health plan like Blue Cross Blue Shield or UCare in the county, we're paying nearly double the rates. So those individuals, if they were lucky enough to have insurance through the health plan, for the most part could get rides to their appointments. We had some stories where people were being left in Duluth and not getting a ride back down to Hinckley. Like that's how dire the situation was, that we could not find rides for people to go get their prescriptions. And, it's not, I mean, to me, it's dehumanizing. And then it's not something that my staff wanted to stand for. So we took our time and wrote this policy proposal. MSSA sponsored it, took it to the legislature. I had a meeting with Senator Abler, and that was set up by MSSA, their executive director and their lobbyists were part of that meeting too. And in the end, the results we got was a 10% increase to that rate for the providers to provide the transportation. Is it going to move the needle? I don't know. I don't believe it will. We were Senator Abler and MSSA, and our proposal was closer to about an 80% increase. It hasn't been updated in a long time, and Barb talked about how gas has increased. We talked about wages increase. Providers need to get paid, and the other side of that too is that providers don't get paid unless the individual's in their car. So there's a lot of deadhead miles that are hard to provide. MSSA did reach out to Andrea September, and they want to keep fighting on this one. So they have made it another priority. I wrote this slide before we heard, but they're going to make it another priority this year and try to get another increase, because we need individuals that don't have the resources, the family to be able to get to those appointments. You know, in my unit, we do a lot on the preventative side because it saves money, it saves lives. It keeps people in the community longer. And we just need to keep pushing that. I think at the HHS committee meeting later this year, we might talk about that too and ask for some partnership on the advocacy side there. So with that, if you guys have any questions, comments, feel free, but otherwise just want to come down and a little bit, again, the success of having a great fall conference hosted up in Sandstone, and then the legislative work that we've been doing over the last year plus, just really excited about that. And again, this is outside of those, this is not other duties as assigned. This is staff that want to get involved and want to make, take that extra effort to make the lives better for our residents here. So I just want to highlight that, and thank you guys for letting us, do that. And thank you for having us. So.
Patrick, before you go, I just want to thank you. I really want to thank the staff for the, you make us very proud.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to listen to this kind of stuff, but you guys don't have to do this. It's something you do because you got a passion for the work you do, and that work you do, they're citizens of Pine County. That's who we represent.
Yep.
And so thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Ready?
Thank you.
Thanks. Leslie, are you gonna do the statewide affordable housing aid? All right.
I know the clicker works, so let's see if I can make it work.
There you go.
Good morning. I'm Leslie Sauter, your Economic Development Coordinator. I'm here to talk to you guys about statewide affordable housing aid program, give you some kind of 10,000 foot perspective on it, and then have an ask in front of you, which we'll talk about when I get to the end of this. So the statewide affordable housing aid was a part of the omnibus tax bill this last year, and it started immediately. So the counties got about 15.3 million, cities are getting about 14.5 million, and tribal governments will get a little under 3 million. And this is an appropriation we'll get in 2023 and 2024, and it is in the law right now to continue thereafter into 2025. At about 45% of what their original allocation was. Smaller cities, like every single city in our county, have to apply for these funds in a competitive grant round. So the county gets it because they're the county, and all the counties get their allocation based on demographics and data. So we're getting the money. It's in the law. It's coming our way. What can we do with it is kind of the big question. Basically, you can use it to develop and preserve affordable housing. That's kind of like the generalized statement, but the goal should be to keep families from losing their housing and help those that are experiencing homelessness find housing. So you could fund emergency rental assistance. You could do financial support to nonprofit affordable housing providers like Lakes and Pines. They typically do that. But you can also fund projects that construct, acquire, rehabilitate, demolish, remove, and finance housing, as long as that housing ends up in the hands of people within a certain income limit, which is 80 to 115% of your area median income. Very plainly, that is like your working class. You just have to make sure that the housing then is affordable in those ranges, and another allocation could be housing strictly developed or rehabilitated that is affordable to your local workforce. So obviously in some communities, the 80 to 115% isn't their workforce housing necessarily. Maybe their workforce has an average age that's above that, or average wage that's above that. Then as long as it's for a workforce and you can identify that need, you can fund it. So they tried to make it very flexible to address your local need for housing. How much are we getting? So in December, we will get 110,000 roughly 110, 119. And then this coming July in 2024, another 55,000, and then December of next year, another. So in the next basically 12 months, we're going to get a little over 220,000, and then estimated about $55,000 annually. So we sat in, I sat in a presentation that the League of Minnesota Cities did with the Association of Minnesota Counties. And that was like an hour-long presentation that I gave you in about 4 slides. So they talked a lot about, they had the legislators there that wrote the law, and they talked about how they wanted to give absolute flexibility to the local units of government. So then, you know, everybody digests this information. They talk about with some of their committees, some of their boards, and then the emails start flying between counties. What are you doing? What are you doing? So in front of you right now is a lot of counties are discussing establishing a local housing trust fund. Some of them that already have them are shifting the money into the one that they already have, which in order to do that, you have to establish it by ordinance. Other counties that have like development corporations or entities that develop housing. I'm thinking up in Hubbard County, they have an entity that does all of their housing development projects, kind of like RHRA EDA, but a little bit different. They're providing some gap financing, so some projects that they already had in the pipeline. They also had a single family subdivision development that they were doing. They inputted a little bit of their ARPA money into it, and now they're going to take this affordable housing aid and put it into it as well to get the project done. And others are hiring consultants with it to help get some projects off the ground. So it's really, there's a lot of different things you can do, but what a lot of communities are looking at is the local housing trust fund, and I'm going to tell you why. So I alluded to that a local housing trust fund has to be established by an official action through an ordinance. You have to dedicate the funding, you have to figure out who's going to provide oversight, and that ordinance should really pinpoint that you want to address housing needs not met by other programs, so you're not duplicating services and not overlapping, and that you want to support housing that'll help your economic conditions and support an array of project types. So you don't want to be so narrow-minded that you only do one type of project, but you want to be able to do them all so that you can pivot and respond to your community's needs as they grow, they ebb and flow. It really should be informed by data like your housing assessments, wait lists, homelessness rates, conversations with employers, you know, understanding really what the housing needs are. It shouldn't just be like, well, I think this sounds like a great idea. You really should make it based on the data that exists. And why this is such a good fit is I think the legislators, I mean, I can't speak for them, but it seems very deliberate that the statewide affordable housing aid and the local housing trust funds have very almost identical uses that are eligible. So you can develop rental housing, supportive housing, you can encourage ownership, you can help with assisted and congregate housing like the senior living that you see across the road, you can do grants, you can do loans and loan guarantees. It's extremely flexible, even when it's a local housing trust fund. The trust fund just protects the funds strictly for housing. So they're not just sitting in a general fund that, oops, now we're going to use for something else. It dedicates it to housing. So the good news is there's money coming in, there's ways to dedicate the funding, and over the last 5 to 10 years, Pine County's done a lot of work looking at housing issues. So we have a strategic housing action plan that was developed by the Community and Economic Development Associates back in 2018. And that does, you know, feel kind of far away, but you know, I keep that plan pretty handy and start checking things off as they get done. So that plan talked about our existing housing market conditions, what programs currently exist in Pine County. It identified what gaps exist and what elements within the communities that would support housing. It also gave us kind of a smorgasbord or a menu to choose from of solutions and concepts that they've seen across the state in similar rural communities that can help build a healthier housing market. So we do have some data, we do have a report. We're not having to start from scratch like some other communities have. In the report, they note that economic development is the key to creating a demand for housing. So back in 2018, we were in kind of maybe, you know, there still was a demand for housing, but in the last 5 years, I think that demand has increased as they projected that it would. But they had given us just a few pointers that, you know, if we actively promote tourism in the county, if we promote entrepreneurship and small business development and start recruiting industries outside of what we already have, that we might start driving a need for different types of housing. And also that will attract developers to the community that will help develop the housing. They also suggested, which we definitely did, partner with Pine Tech. But Pine Tech has created a small house housing construction program. They do have that in the business incubator. So I think studies like this, assessments like this do help feed into those programs because they are paying attention. So we are working actively on a lot of these things. But they also noted, which is in no surprise, I don't think, as you kind of observe things going on in Pine County, is that you can have this housing demand, but you have to be able to respond to it and you have to have the capacity to do that. So they had noted that we have Beacon, a great GIS system, but we can also use it a little deeper to track foreclosures, forfeitures, and the conditions of our housing so that we can kind of spot which neighborhoods or which communities might need some assistance. They also suggested that, you know, we look into homeownership assistance programs, which we have, participate in the Minnesota Cities Participation Program, which funnels some down payment assistance into our county. And then they suggested, you know, embracing rehabilitation and redevelopment programs, which 3 of our cities have, and we did a countywide building rehab program with ARPA. So we are checking the boxes. We are working towards this. It's great. They also noted that our rental stock is declining in age or increasing in age, so then declining in quality. And they might, you know, we might want to think about having resources for some of those rental properties so that, you know, as you invest $50,000 into a rental property, rents then have to go up to accommodate for that. And how do you keep it affordable? Sometimes there are grants or low interest loans that can help make that a little bit more affordable. And then in that report, they also interviewed all of our communities or some of our larger communities and just like what's on your horizon for housing projects. And the 3 noted up there, the Rock and Sandstone, Fond Meadows and Pine City, and Hinckley was actively working with Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures on the Lady Luck Estates and the additional development that'll be going in over there. So things are moving forward, but honestly, capacity or money starts to be an issue. So taking a step back even further in time, Pine County participated in the regional housing study, which was helpful because it gives us a baseline of what existed then, and then we can track what's happened since then. So since 2015, when the housing study was done, almost 450 units of housing have been added. But based on that study, at that point in time, there's still a demand for another 487. We're only halfway there, almost 10 years later. So there is still a need out there. And kind of like I kind of dumped a ton of information in front of you. My apologies. But what does it all mean? Like if you want to attract new industries to our community, there has to be housing available for them. So that pent up demand from 2015 has sort of been worked on. We've gotten halfway there, but it still exists and it's probably worse today than it was then, even though we've added 450 units. Give or take probably a dozen there too, because there's some that we don't count where they don't have building permit data. The rising costs of materials and an aging population staying in their home longer causes implications. Homeownership has become increasingly difficult, whether there are resources out there or not. The base price of a starter home is almost unaffordable at a starting wage. I kind of equate that with, can a brand new teacher buy a home? You know, that's kind of a good solid, like that's a good starting wage, and can they afford the average home? It's become more difficult. In addition, seniors are not exiting their homes as soon, or, you know, maybe there's more boomers living in their homes and taking up those homes. So they're not leaving those homes behind, and there's just kind of like the stagnant process in the housing spectrum. Rental vacancies are also super low, causing a really high demand, which then therefore they can raise rent prices. That's the way the market works. So there's less choice and larger prices. And gaps still exist. So you can still have all the money or not, but To develop new housing, it's super expensive. The infrastructure to run sewer and water to those properties costs a lot, and who's gonna pay for it? In greater Minnesota and rural areas, it's harder to make a multifamily property, let's say 25 units or more, cash flow without any sort of subsidies. Whether that's getting the property for $1, which already has sewer and water to it, or having the sewer and water put in using the tax base. I mean, there's a lot of creative ways that communities are figuring out how to make it affordable. And while you're working on new development, you do also have to consider the existing housing stock and keep maintaining it and making sure there are resources for people to do that. And all of this has to be tracked somehow. Otherwise, you don't have a slide that tells you how many units have we added in the last 10 years. So, but who's going to do it and how are they going to do it? So most of this information, pretty much all of it was presented to the HRA EDA in the last couple months. We started with, here's what LMC and AMC gave us, think about it. And then last month, a couple weeks ago, a week ago, this very similar presentation was given to them. Be like, what do you think of a local housing trust fund? Their recommendation was to adopt an ordinance to form a local housing trust fund using these statewide affordable housing aid. They would like to be tasked with the implementation of these funds because it fits what they're here to do. And they are considering dedicating some of the money to a specific shovel-ready project. Some of them actually listed in that study from CETA in 2018. But they are concerned with the ability to administer this. Like how wide do we want to cast our net? What kind of projects do we want to do? What's that staffing going to look like? So they want to do some research into the administrative capacity and costs to deliver these programs. So.
Questions? I have a question or two.
The first, do you know how we can find out the number for our homeless? That's one question.
For Pine County, how can we find out?
Yes.
Yeah, we can find that out.
Because I know we've asked before and no one really seems to know
The number, what?
how many homeless we have in the county.
Oh,
And then my second question is when, with this, housing dollars, how soon do they want it to get put to work? You know, we just can't sit on it, so.
Right. Good question. I did leave that slide out. So they give you about 4 years to spend the money.
They'll bought back if we're not. What?
They want to know what you're working on. So annually you would have to report to Minnesota Housing Finance Agency on what you're working on, what projects or what programs you've developed to spend this money down. And then after 4 years, you should have spent it or allocated it or dedicated it. You don't necessarily have to have it out the door, but it could be committed. If you put it into a local housing trust fund, it's considered spent, allocated, planned for, and then your annual report to Minnesota Housing is done. So in a perfect world, if we were to adopt a local housing trust fund here and automatically move all of the statewide affordable housing aid into that fund as soon as it comes in, that first annual report, we'd be like, we established a local housing trust fund and that is where all of our aid is going to go. We're done reporting to the state and then our reports are to the governing board.
so if I could ask the next question.
Mhm.
If I understand this right, that you presented this to the HRA and it seems to me that's where the trust fund, I don't know if I'm saying this right, but the administrator of that trust fund would be our HRA. Is that?
That's
I'm
what we're
understanding?
presenting. Yes,
Yeah.
that makes most sense.
That makes most sense. to me.
Mhm.
And then the expenditure of those funds, that when they get put in the trust fund, that would be the decision of the HRA board
Yes.
to say, here's a housing unit of 25 units. They need $50,000 to make this thing work for them. And we recommend we do that. Does it preclude somebody like Habitat for Humanity, which I know only build one house at a time?
Right.
But if they had some startup cash just to do something in Pine County, they could build one house and then that house gets paid back to Habitat and then it kind of becomes their own revolving
Yeah.
loan fund.
So are you talking like, would the local housing trust fund be able to make a grant or a loan to Habitat for Humanity
That's what I
to
meant.
do like some interim
Yep.
gap financing for
Yep.
the construction? I believe so,
Okay.
yes. And then, yeah, if you delegate the authority to that board, the HRA EDA would determine like, what do we want that to be? Do we want
Right.
it to be a grant? Do we want it to be a grant, part loan?
Right,
Because not talking about a lot of money either.
right.
But I think, it becomes a way to finance some housing locally that we might not have been able to do. And what does that look like? So,
We'll probably end up with a list.
Yeah, I'm
Waiting
sure,
list.
I'm sure the list will be longer than the money.
Yeah.
But,
Would be nice.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
thanks, Leslie.
So I guess my ask is that, you consider scheduling a public hearing. We picked a good date that we thought would work of February 6th, if that works for you guys. That would be the next step of. establishing a-
I will make that motion to set the public hearing February 6th, 2024.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded to set a public hearing for February 6th, 2024 to consider,
And that's assigning the HRA EDA to him.
Yeah, correct, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So the draft ordinance as it was included in your packet makes that assignment.
yes. Any discussion? Oh, we need a second to that.
I did.
Carried it.
Okay. Any discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Awesome. Third quarter budget update.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, when you start out the year, you kind of hold your breath on the budget because you never know if your budget's going to work or not. And then as you work through the year, you start to let that breath out. And at this point, after the third quarter, I have let that breath out because I think everything looks about as it should, right? That doesn't mean there aren't, little anomalies here and there, but overall, the county at the end of the third quarter is in a good fiscal position. Kind of things are performing as we expected them. If you look on chart 1, all of the major funds are expended at less than 75%. And then you look at the total and you see those totals are running a little higher than the major funds. There is some COVID-19 relief money and some CBDG grant money that runs through the county budget that's not budgeted. So it makes it look like it's a little higher than normal, but those are pass-throughs and don't have an impact on the fiscal health or the operations. If you look on chart number 2, this gets down to the general fund, to the departments that have significant revenue. They're all looking, and it's a 3-year trend, so you can see how they compare year to year. The jail looks like revenues are great. In times past, we would pat ourselves on the back and think we had a lot of border revenue. That's not quite the case this year. This is primarily driven by canteen revenue, which is dedicated. So it's not a bad thing. It just doesn't necessarily help the bottom line. And then in probation, there was some changes in the law that increased the funding, which we got in our fiscal year 2023. That's actually a state fiscal year 2024 appropriation. So it's more of a timing thing than anything else. And then just if you look at the very right side of that graph on the total general fund, you'll see a really nice 3-year trend that our revenues have been ticking up a little bit at this point of the year as a percentage of the budget, which is a positive note. The next chart number 3 or 3A, just looks at those general fund departments on the expenditure side. And recorder, we talk about a lot because they have recorder and technology fund. That spike is the planned spending of reserves for the tax and CAMA. And then in the planning and zoning, it looks like it's running a little bit high. Those are the septic grants and the Kettle River watershed grant that ran through our books. That makes that look a little bit high. Otherwise expenditures all look about as they should. And then if you go to that grant or graph 3B, that black line is just the 4-year average. So you can answer the question, how is our spending compared to average? And it looks about like it should, except for those 2 departments that I noted already. And then on chart 4, just one over the world on health and human services by their major divisions, income maintenance, social services, and public health, and then overall. And they're the positive sign in social services is there over the last several years, their revenue recapture has increased significantly. So the revenue looks better earlier in the year. And then the last chart number 5 is the ARPA spending. And in that column on the right, you'll see that there are some bolded numbers. And this is where we had been working with the University of Minnesota on some youth programming that had trouble getting out of the gate. We met with Extension and decided to kind of realign that program with the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. So if you go down kind of the middle of the page, it'll say new Mille Lacs Band Ojibwe Youth Engagement, $100,000. And then on the community health blue zones, there is some activity on community health going on, but blue zones just did not seem like the right program at the right time. And so we can eliminate that program. And then if you recall during the audit presentation, Kelly noted that we have been accruing interest in this fund and that had been growing the amount available to appropriate. Well, the auditors noted that that's not allowed, that interest cannot go back into the fund. So we had $37,739 of interest that have been taken out of the fund. And so we need to close that gap as well. And so you'll see that. No, that is not the interest one. I was looking at the voting machine. Yeah, okay, thank you, Kelly. 35,613 was the interest. So it goes into the general fund.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's not lost. No, it's just misallocated.
Yep.
So in any case, we also have a need for some election equipment tabulators that if we have some ARPA money available, that will be a good use of that. And so I'm suggesting that 37,739 is to get some ballot counters. And then we are working and have been working to get off the AS400. We have a date of 12/31/24. We think we're going to have a little bit of cost in that. And so if there were any available funds in the ARPA that could be potentially just designated for that. And then at the November IT committee, that's going to be a topic of conversation. So that's kind of a one over the world on the ARPA as far as potential changes you might want to consider that impact the bottom line. And then I have one update that doesn't impact the bottom line that has to do with the sheriff's office. And they have been working to replace the EOC trailer. I think the current one dates from like 96 maybe, but anyways, it's in need of replacement. They have a EMPG grant for $40,000 to do that. The total cost is about $48,000. And so the request or the sheriff has proposed that he has 5 line items of existing ARPA funding. And if you're looking at your chart 5, those are lines 9, 13, 14, and 16. And that's really 4. He has 4 lines that he thinks he can make that about $8,000 up with. And so that sounded like a good plan. And so I just, as this developed last Friday, I figured today would be a good opportunity to present that for consideration as well. So thoughts, questions?
Question.
Yep.
Could you refresh my memory on line 3 there, the countywide housing rehab?
That is a partnership we did with Lakes and Pines.
That's it.
And so we had originally allocated, I want to say about 800,000. It was a bigger number. And then partway through the program, we hit the stop button and say, just proceed with what's in the pipeline now. And that was a residential rehab, a residential owner, rental rehab, and a commercial. There were three components to it.
So the unspent dollars there are allocated to that program already, or could they be moved to the housing?
They're allocated but not spent. So they have, it's a long duration to get into the
Yes.
program, get approval,
they're
get the
expecting it,
work
right?
done.
That's
But
what I
yeah,
mean.
so we capped it at the number, the dollar amount that they had in the pipeline when we said stop.
Okay, so they're figuring that money
Yep.
there and they're setting
Yeah,
up.
so
the
at
project.
this point, if someone drops out of the program or a project doesn't get completed, that might result in some excess funds. But otherwise, if we wanted to claw back any of that money, we would have to go to someone who's been awarded money
Yeah.
and say, we want to take it back.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Thank you.
Any other questions?
If you're agreeable to the changes, and it's really three changes to, well, five, work on my arithmetic. So we would end the U of M youth programming and the blue zones, and then we would reallocate funds for election equipment, Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe youth engagement, and then the balance for potential software upgrades.
Do we need to include the trailer situation on that too?
That, yes, that would be good.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept those changes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the changes as presented. Any questions?
What's the youth engagement program?
It's a program that was presented to Terry and I and the HHS committee and the Indian Affairs Committee. They have a youth program called
Angie.
Is the Angie?
And so they already have this program developed and they've been having good success with it. In my mind, it kind of mimics what Terry has been doing.
Yeah.
his Evening reporting center, some community coaching, seems to have gained some traction with them and we'd like to see that through.
So they've given you a report on what's going
Yeah,
on in that?
Yeah,
Okay.
and they've come back and secured people to make that program work.
Okay, thank you.
We just couldn't get anybody to apply for the job going through the university for 4-H through there.
Sure.
And so it's just kind of taking the money and changing it over to the.
I was just
Department of
curious,
Revenue.
and questioning why it was, I don't know a lot about that.
Any more questions? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed?
I oppose.
All right. We'll move on to the strategic planning.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, in October, I was contacted by Don Hickman, who said that the Initiative Foundation had $10,000 that they were willing to award to Pine County for some county board strategic planning. And it did require a match. And so knowing that we have annually done strategic planning with in-house staff, and my sense is that that's was successful, but it's run its course. It seemed like an opportunity to bring in a consultant who could help us do maybe a little better job doing strategic planning. So I prepared a request for proposals. We received 2 proposals back, one of them from Hugh Life and one of them from the North Span Group. The North Span Group it's out of Duluth and they do work in the region. They work closely with GPS 4593. And then Hugh Life is a company out of the Twin Cities that does significant strategic planning, educational programs, et cetera. So both of them seem like good fits. Both of them have the capacity to do the work. Leslie and I did video interviews with both of the firms over the last several days. And I think Hugh Life rose to the top. They've done Stearns County and Wright County. And I talked to both of those county administrators who thought that they did good work, that they were able to navigate some potentially challenging personality issues in those counties with great professionalism and skill. And then I also did check references for North Span. They did the plan for the Chisago County HRA. So I talked to the executive director there, and she was very complimentary of what they did. Her comment was that they continue to use the plan, which is a good testament. But after all of that, my suggestion would be to go with Hugh Life as the consultant. They would do pre-work. They would meet with all of you. They would meet with senior staff, and then they would do 2 days of workshops. And in talking to one of the county administrators, you know, I'm concerned that at some point you lose interest as the day goes on. He paid them high compliments for keeping energy and excitement and interest, which I know is important. Thoughts?
Well, I think Hugh Life is I mean, I think it's something that we need to do is, first of all, strategic planning is, I believe, imperative to keeping an organization moving forward. And these are both reputable firms. I think Hugh Life is probably who we should pick.
You need a motion to go with Hugh
I
Life?
do.
I will make a motion to go with Hugh Life for strategic planning.
Then you wanna,
That's second. I have a question on that if I can.
Yeah, go ahead, JJ.
Was that so Dave, was it a bid that you actually put out with your proposal, your RFP?
yeah, it was a request for proposals. It was not a bid.
Oh. Okay, cause I was just curious, because you actually put in there the amount of money to be spent, and that's where I guess I question. Usually when you go to get services or something, you don't ever say, maybe you hire a roofer, gee, I need a roof.
Yeah.
All I have is 20,000 to spend, what can you do it for? That's
and
where I
I-
got confused. I hadn't seen that before, and
And I think with professional services, it's sometimes a little different because we know how much money we have to spend. And if we don't share that, we might get proposals that are $100,000 or $80,000 or $5,000. And so
Oh.
then it's really hard to compare those proposals. Because they're not in essence bidding on the same thing. So if we had and when you do a regular bid, you have a very defined scope of work. You know, you need this much gravel, this much asphalt, this much clearing and grubbing, this much 8-inch pipe, whatever your project is. This is a way to get them all to say, how much service can we get for the amount of money that we're willing to commit?
When you had sent to 4 people and we only heard back from 2, and part of that might have been, you know, who was willing to do it for the 20,000 too. It's hard to say.
Well,
And
they
I-
have to have an idea. It's
and-
nice that we don't want to get billed more, right? This is
Right.
what we're gonna spend. What can you do for us for this amount?
Right.
And so I did send it out to 4. One of them responded that they just, at this moment in time, cannot do a proposal. And then I didn't hear back from the other one, but I heard from other people who know the other one, and they said that person was extremely busy right now. So that's, we only got 2, but I think those 2 were very well qualified.
Did you get a second down there?
Yeah.
Right here, okay.
Got a motion by Lovegren, second by Moore. Any other questions? Concerns? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed? Okay,
And I did validate dates with all of them. And so if we're able to set a date, I know some folks leave for the winter, and so if January 9th and 10th were available, those dates worked for the consultant. And that's a Tuesday and a Wednesday.
works for me.
Far out, it's next year.
Because
Your calendar doesn't flick over.
both of them said they had some conflicts on those days, but if they knew this far in advance, they could rearrange their schedules. So if those sound like okay dates,
We can make it work.
thank you.
make it work. All right. We'll move on to some updates. NACO. Telecom.
There was a lot of talk about what they're doing to help broadband to work in their areas or in their counties. And one of the counties did a really good presentation about how they brought the communities together to talk about, and they're kind of beyond where we are. We don't have broadband in a lot of our places yet, but what they're doing is working to bring in the communities to show them how to utilize it. Because we have a lot of people, you know, they've never had access to it, so they don't know how to use it once they get it. And that might be something that we'll want to look at in the future, but yeah. So in the 988 crisis suicide hotline, they're still working on getting it to where the call needs to go. So like if I have a Texas phone number and I call 988, it's likely going to go to Texas when I am in Hinkley. So they're still trying to get that fixed out so that it goes more by location, but that's something that they're still working on.
That's something that lady talked about the other night at
Right.
Pine Tech.
Yeah. So it said there is a bill in the House to get the system fixed. So far, it's only working. So far, it's only working with. I don't know what I had that down as, but yeah. So there is a bill in the House to get that fixed so that it will go further.
Lax band of Ojibwe meeting. Not that, Terry?
Sure. It was a good, for me, it was exciting to hear what's happening in Hinkley, that they're finally going to be able to move. We're going to, we can say it publicly now, get a daycare. The building that houses Antiques America, Antiques America has been asked to move to the hotel and they decided not to take up on that. I've talked to some of the vendors since then, and they are excited about that opportunity and they're going to look into moving and doing something at the hotel, but they need to get that remodeled so they can do that. And they're a little late in the process. The renters that had that building did not communicate with their vendors that they needed to be out, that they were going to be evicted, or the doors were going to be locked. So now so the vendors had no idea the day before they needed to be gone, that they needed to be gone. So there'll be a lot of working with Mille Lacs Band, which is Corporate Ventures, which is really good because they're so good to work with and they're willing to work with the people. So we're going to get that done. We'll have a daycare. We're going to have a business incubator. There's going to be a coffee shop that I really hope has smoothies. So there's going to be some things coming, and it's positive things. If they can help get more businesses going and get that incubator going, it's going to be a good thing for our county. If you wanted to add.
No, I think it's, you know, this business incubator idea is something that started a few years ago. And it's something I know Mille Lacs Band has worked on for a long time. And we're excited for them to go down travel down this road. We're happy they're doing it in Pine County. So hopefully nothing but good will come out of it, because the whole idea is that a business could launch itself there in some space and grow and say, we need more space, and move down the road a quarter mile or half a mile or whatever and stay in the area and grow that business. So,
or even if it's somebody that just does income taxes and they do them for a couple months a year or whatever,
yeah.
They can rent a spot for a really reasonable price and just do them in that building. And so, you know, it's just going to be a really good win for the county.
Arrowhead counties, anybody get there?
I didn't make it, but Barb keeps me in the loop. So the main thing they covered with the Arrowhead legislative priorities that we can rank them how we want to, because we're a member of that, but I think we ranked with District 1 already, all of us there, most of us, but
yeah.
So that's pretty much what was the biggest business that was covered there, but I did not make the meeting.
How about Rural Action Caucus?
I didn't make it back in time for that one.
Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership. I went, but I don't think they knew I went, because I had a really bad connection because it was remote. And I think they were working on our around the south end of the lake at the time, so our regular Wi-Fi thing went haywire, and it just wasn't working. I was able to catch some of the reports that they were doing, but every time I went to ask a question, I froze. So anyway, that happens with technology. It rarely happens where I live. But it did that day. Anyway, they are doing some exciting projects, and there were a bunch of reports on those projects. So I'm excited for the Snake River one watershed, one plan to get up and running and give us reports on projects they're doing instead of who gets the vote. I'm very excited for that part of the thing. East Central Regional Development Commission.
Yeah, I went to that. We talked on the new Minnesota leave laws that are be taking effect January 24th. A 0.7% payroll tax for the paid family leave, which is going to start January 26th. There's going to be some announcements on the ECRDC website. There's going to be a food producers event to be announced. And also there's a small business marketing event that's coming up at the end of the month. It'll be on their website. There's also a couple vacant seats on ECRDC that is on there. It's going to be in the minutes. I didn't receive the minutes from them yet, but they announced that there's two from the Native Tribal Representative and Chisago County Townships, 3, and Kanabec County Municipality. Other than that, it was same old.
Right. Special meeting at the 49er Training Center. I think we found that to be most delightful. I did not realize that they had 31 employees. I never would have fathomed that, but that's a lot. And that right now they're getting into their real busy time of training, because, which makes sense, people that need recertifications don't want to get taken off the job for a week or two, so they do it in their normally late off season. So I found it very interesting, and
they do a remarkable job working with the neighbors, you know, like not doing it, creating all the dust on in the evening and having all the noise, or the not doing it during deer season because people need to get their deer, or you know, yeah, they just really work so well with the neighborhood to make sure that they're doing, and it's an amazing facility, amazing.
the only bad part for me is I got to drive just about brand new Bobcat, which made mine pretty sick when I got home. But
Steve wants a new toy.
yeah. Until I saw what they cost. Anyway. Shack meeting?
So Shack was, we have 2 new people through the state that work with Shack, and they just really wanted to get a better idea of what people thought Shack was, and who was on Shack, so that there'd be just a more personal part in it. So it was a good meeting here to be able to just discuss what we need out of Shack and what we believe Shack is, and how we can help Shack be better.
And LX was canceled. ICWA?
So I have 2 ICWAs here. I'm just going to kind of put them together.
Yeah.
So the one ICWA is sitting in with certain county representatives and then tribal representatives, and trying to figure out what the best laws are, how to fix the laws with the legislature coming up in 2024 so that we can help our families better. So sitting in and listening, we have some amazing staff and attorneys throughout the state that are working to keep it so that it's something that's doable for our staff. It's not going to be crazy. However, the second ICWA meeting was meeting with MIFPA and then the county staff. and without having the tribal staff there, and their real concern is that everything that they've worked months to create and to do, if they meet with the state or with the tribes without having that voice at the table, which they actually stopped having meetings where the counties were involved and just went to tribal. They said if they take everything that the counties have done to make it a good and workable process, and take it to the tribal and the state, that we're going to lose the improvements that we made and the changes that were made. And so that's a big concern that we need to stay on top of to make sure our staff can do a good job.
Thank you. HRA, EDA?
I'll take that, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
It was a organizational meeting at pretty much for picking the new chair, vice chair, secretary, bank, the depositories and newspaper and legal counsel was Reese, but then it went on to, Leslie gave that presentation on the housing dollars from the state. And then that was followed with Megan Elliott doing a presentation on her project, or a discussion on her project and how it's being financed. And then the board then decided to do a recommendation of spending $48,000 to help her through the stabilization phase of that project. So other than that, that was pretty much the highlights.
Thank you. Project Opioid.
It was really on overdose crises. In all of the states, 2022 had an overdoses that increased from 110 to 112,000 people that were suffering from overdoses. Some counties increased, some went down. They said drug use is not up. The deaths are certainly up. Prescription use is down 40%, or the prescriptions are down 40%. There's a 50% death increase with fentanyl, due to fentanyl. And we've been seeing some really good fentanyl busts. I think we just had one here, didn't we, recently? With one of our canines. Pretty impressive. Thank you. So yeah, we've got a lot of fentanyl going through our county. And so it's, we've seen the drug bust happening down in Hennepin and Ramsey, and Pine just had one. I think St. Louis just had a really big one too. Or up in that area, maybe it was Carlton. So we've got a lot of stuff going through here, and it's just impressive to know that we've got some great staff that are getting them and getting that off the street and saving lives.
Yeah, we had this huge spike in deaths of overdoses in the late winter. How was that?
It definitely slowed down from then. I would say we still probably have 1 or 2 a month that get reported.
Still a lot.
Not death-wise, sorry.
Yeah.
Overdoses. But we have some there have been deaths since the flood that we had earlier this spring. And you on, thankfully?
All right. Project Rise.
We were talking about truancy. There was a truancy grant that was hoping to get submitted, but it did not get submitted. So that's going to hold possibly some things back. Remember a while ago, we had Cheryl Berkey that worked for the schools, and she would go out with truancy, and she'd go take kids out of their home and take them back to school. It was hopeful that that grant would bring somebody like Cheryl back so that we could get that again, because truancy is on the rise. Right, okay, there's 21 truancy clients at this time, which is a lot when you think that we're in the beginning of the school year. And this was, a couple weeks back. One of the other things that we had Nick from Scruggs, who did a really good presentation. I think that's pretty much what I have here. Oh, no, I wanted to say we have Devin from our probation office who has stepped up. And I love, we were talking today, Patrick did a presentation on how people think outside the box and do extra things. And Devin is starting to go to the schools 1 night a week to meet with the kids that are instead of taking them to truancy court, he's going to catch them before truancy court. And he's going to have meetings with the family and the child and the schools to see what we can do to fix that so that they don't have to go into the system and be part of truancy court. So just one more sign of where our employees step up and do more for our families because they want to make it a better place to be.
Zoning board.
Only two items in front of the board, basically. That was, there was a CUP, IUP issue and then one variance and the board went through those pretty quickly. And then they went into the discussion on the shoreline management ordinance, which Mark Lampert was there then, and he did a very nice presentation on what he went through on his project and said that I don't know if it was a judge but the ruling came down on there is an agreement. They have an agreement.
Yeah.
Between him and the DNR on that. The judge was handling that lawsuit, but the DNR is doing final edits. So they don't know, so he wasn't so happy because they're kind of just not dragging their feet. It was his side. But he was very personable and explained the issues that rose for him going through this with, from the very beginning, the township doing the approval, then the county board coming in, and then the DNR stepping in and, or not the county board, the county zoning shoreline stuff. And anyway, so at the end of that, then they had the board had a long discussion with him and they agreed to table the ordinance until later or until the lawsuit is totally done with them. So whatever action that they take changing the ordinance doesn't apply, upset the agreement that's happening between the two. So that's pretty much where it's at.
Thank you.
And it's a really good board.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, diverse group.
Let's see, there was a meeting that was scheduled with City of Hinckley and MinDOT and that got postponed, and then the Township Association was a couple Saturdays ago. JJ was there. Terry was there. I was there.
Want to talk?
Go ahead, Carol.
I think one of the questions that was asked at that meeting was, what are the things that are happening that can help families who maybe can't pay the rent or need housing or cleaning up blight, that type of stuff. We had two really good presentations today on what the county has available to do that. And Patrick talking about helping families that are people that need help, whether it be getting their prescriptions or having transportation. Human Services helps with some of those processes with if they can't pay their rent. We've got Leslie gave a great presentation on where we're at with being able to help people. So I think there were some questions that were asked tonight, and I really like our presentations that we had today because I think that they answered a bunch of those questions.
My takeaway from the meeting was, maybe county staff, some of us could meet with the leadership from the Township Association and talk about the structure of that meeting, and maybe we could offer a facility that we could meet in that some of us could actually hear in. It would help.
I think too, to talk to them about who's invited to attend and then who's on the agenda to attend.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
structure. It's they've invited the same people. I've been on there. I've been going for 17 years and they just copy the same list that they had 17 or 18 years ago. And those people have never been there. And so maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah.
We have a on the backside here, Pine County Ed Leadership Network meeting. We had a meeting at Pine Tech the other night. I found it most interesting. I always find those meetings interesting. But the interesting thing that my takeaway was is when Joe explained the part about the people you know, people are getting really good jobs when they come out of a program like cybersecurity or welding. The problem they are foreseeing, and they already are starting to see it, is the finding in good quality instructors. Because the state pay system, when you think about it, a person goes out of that cybersecurity program and is making really good money, they would have to take a tremendous pay cut. They're going to come back and keep that program. It's a wonderful thing for the people that are taking the programs, but it's not sustainable. So what can we do? You know, what can they do? What can we all do? How are we gonna solve that issue?
Right. Well, the schools are having that same problem.
Exactly.
We're talking, Hinckley has an opening for a para and they have to have a degree and they have to have a lot of qualifications, and starting pay is $17 an hour. But when you take $17 an hour and compare it with somebody graduating from Pine Tech getting 80, you know, we need those paras in the school too. So how do you get the staff that we need for our other occupations when they're all in a hard spot?
And probation, county attorney and rep vice meeting.
It was a great meeting. To hear Terry to be able to talk about the things that Pine County has done and what they're doing, and Representative Weiss for her desire to learn more and to figure out, how many times did she say, how much do you need? I'll write a check. I thought, ooh, ouch. But just her desire to help the counties improve what they're doing. It was a very good meeting.
And it was really focused a lot on restorative justice.
Yes.
Those programs.
The outside the box programs we're doing, that's a good thing.
Any other?
I have another. Pine County has been asked to partake in a, it's called an intergovernment. It's the Department of Youth and Families, and they're doing a pathway for family and children to succeed. Excuse me, and we have SHAC, where SHAC can get together with Human Services or with health and decide different things that we can do within the health community to make it a better place for the counties to work, where they can represent their clients or their families. But we don't have anything with health, and so, or with Human Services, sorry. And so this is a brand new committee that is being started, and next week they're having a retreat where it's just going to include some counties and some state, hopefully some tribal. I don't know if the tribal is going to be right away, but they're hoping to have tribal at the table. So we had a pre-retreat briefing just to talk about what the goals are, what our hopes are, how we can work together. To succeed, we need vision, policy, equity, budget and finance, organizational planning, IT and data, staffing and labor relations, compliance and legal are the big things that they're going to start working on in the beginning. But not all counties had a place at that table. So it's pretty humbling that Pine County does.
Anything else? If not, we've got a plethora of meetings coming up. And then we're gonna do labor negotiation update. And that'll be in a form of a closed session. So
Recess.
we'll do a quick recess, couple minutes, and then we'll come back and go into closed session.
Okay. They would do these. Kelly, are you taking off?
No.
So I have a question.
Yeah, I have an answer.
I know, but you know, we have the new units being built in the county that, whatever.
Then building units?
Yeah, once you go
Housing
through, yeah,
units,
they're,
yeah.
yeah, housing units. So how many of them are cabins that aren't really a house and somebody living here? Is there a way to cut, how do you know what I mean? Is it the number, is it real? Okay,
And I can just put the property tax classification on the report that that shows is
So
residential.
she has that,
season.
okay.
She might, but I don't remember how I ran it. But I
Okay.
can look.
Cause I'm wondering, it doesn't, it
Yeah.
might not be, nothing to do with
Yeah.
new people moving in.
Right, it's probably better than 75% owner occupied, I would guess.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's what just off the top of your head, I was always wondering. I'm not asking you to do any work, but yeah, I just thought you'd kind of know if people saying I'm coming up here,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing the baby boomers that are coming up and buying. I don't understand.
Nice.
I don't know. $450,000 house on the lake. Tear it down. And then build something new.
Yeah, just the taxes alone
Right.
are jaw dropping, right? Okay, thank you. Sorry to stop you.
Good, we met for 2 hours and it's still 10 o'clock. There you go. I'm doing good. Everybody. Always a hockey practice. Oh, Jesus. When did you get done?
Last night was like 9:30 quarters.
Oh, you've been sleeping.
I couldn't sleep when I'm there.
Lately.
We sure kill a lot of trees.
You will be able to do that meeting.
Try to stay away.
What's that?
You will be able to do that meeting next Thursday.
Yes.
Perfect.
Probably.
Perfect.
The 16th so far, unless somebody dies.
Is that it?
Yeah.
I don't remember the date.
Well, who's calling for the meeting? That's what I was gonna talk to you
It
about.
was MnDOT and the city of Hinkley.
Oh, so they're presenting the project?
Well, I think they want, my understanding is, when I was sitting when I was sitting in, they said that MnDOT wanted to meet with Hinkley because they want to move where the site was gonna be.
Where was it before?
We don't know. I don't know.
They wanna move it up in that empty space up there. Over by the old church where they thinking about.
Yeah, I don't even really know that. I just know that, in fact, David's
That's
the
pretty
one
good.
that said
Not
that
much
they
room
wanted
up in
to.
there.
No, and I said, they could use the depot. They've got that depot there. People can go to the museum.
See, that's off the track. I couldn't see.
I mean, people drive on that all the time.
Oh, no,
There's
but I mean,
streets.
you'd have to pull it, up. You'd have to.
Right.
You'd have to come off the track.
Are you rearranging?
Yeah, it's so hard to.
Great. So they have to do with their siding anyway.
They're gonna sue us.
But I think there's siding all the way. It's 2 tracks still by the high school.
Yeah.
There's a passing, they can pass in Hinkley, can't they? 2 tracks.
Well, no.
So they do it
They
south?
pull off. They pull
Thought
off.
this was just gonna be 30 seconds.
So it isn't they don't have a siding.
No, they do on
like
the
we're-
south side of Hinkley. They've got that.
Yeah, that one's coming out.
Doesn't work over there.
I don't know what the presentation is.
Oh,
So,
I'll find out.
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. David, you had heard that they wanted to move the NLX station by the school. Where did you hear that from?
I think I heard it from.
Okay. That has to be there too, or to have the sheriff's presence at that meeting too, because of safety. So,
It's a huge safety issue, cause you know who rides the train.
yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
exactly.
But look what happens in Minneapolis on the train.
Whenever we're ready.
JJ just walked out.
There's the. If you want to close the meeting on bottom.
Who's gonna read that?
Not the door shut.
Well, we gotta wait for JJ to
What?
get back.
Oh,
What?
You have your recorder?
Where'd he go?
Phone ring.
Who's missing? GG.
We still got 8 minutes before the meeting
Do
starts.
you know who the lady is?
I thought it was Wendy Bloom.
Paid my taxes today.
So did I. They couldn't find me. in the
Oh, really?
system. Huh? They were, she was looking and looking and looking. They go HALLAN.
Well, they must have jury duty.
Oh, that's why there's so many cars.
They must be getting lunch. We don't.
Are you starving?
I had a big bowl of oatmeal at Cabin Coffee this morning.
Oh, you're content.
Where'd JJ?
Oh, I gotta run.
Oh dear.
Yep.
You can read that?
Yeah, I can. I move to close the meeting as provided by Minnesota statute 13D.03 to consider strategy for labor negotiations, including negotiation strategies and development, discussion and reviews of labor negotiation proposals pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 179A.01 to 179A.25.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Opposed? Are you got it on? Okay, we're back in open session and we had an update on negotiations and I believe we're ready to ratify some contracts.
So, Mr. Chair, I can review those
Yep.
contracts.
Yep.
So we have tentative agreements that for 2 years that have been ratified with the following 3 units, the courthouse unit, the deputies unit, and the highway maintenance unit. And we have a 3-year agreement that has been ratified by the social services supervisors. So those would be the 4 collective bargaining agreements that could be approved today.
So we're looking for a motion.
I'll move a motion to
I'll second.
push all 4 of them.
A motion by Moore, second by Ludwig. Any discussion?
The discussion I have is, we didn't bring that up, to pay for all this is gonna be raising taxes, of course, correct?
Well, we had it in our preliminary budget.
Okay, so is there a way I can amend the motion?
You can make a motion to amend a motion, yes.
Yeah, that we sell forfeited land to offset the costs of these labor increases. Of the $23 million the county has in forfeited land holdings.
Well, we'd need a second to that amendment. We have a second to the amendment. We have a second to the amendment. Do we have a second to the amendment? Amendment dies for a lack of a second, so we're back to the original motion. Any more discussion? Not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
All right, motion passes.
Are we adjourned?
Any other business come before the board? If not,